The Astral Plane and Earth Life by Alfred Percy Sinnett. This piece is from Collected Fruits of Occult Teaching, published in 1919. There are two distinct concentric shells of astral matter sunk within the body of the Earth. The lowest of all is one with which humanity has scarcely anything to do, or ought not to have anything to do, though in the ghastly unprecedented conditions of satanic disturbance that we are going through, influences from that lowest astral region have been brought to the surface for our profound discomfort. Subplane number 1 ought to be concerned merely with the gradual disintegration of elemental forms that played a part appropriately enough in the very earliest history of this planet, but the need for which has long since expired. Level number 2, immediately below the Earth's surface, is the real hell of actual nature, a condition of suffering for those who drift thither that can hardly be exaggerated in imagination. That such suffering, however, is destined to be curative in its character is a fundamental idea to which, in investigating that region, we should always cling. It deals only with the most hideously degraded and atrociously criminal representatives of our humanity. Without for the moment attempting to go into further detail in connection with this ghastly department of the subject, we still have to realize that when we consider subplane number 3, that which is the first above the surface of the physical world, we are still in touch with a purgatorial realm, the curative influences of which are appropriate to evildoers whose iniquity falls short of that which leads to the lower hell. Experiences on number May the 3rd, nevertheless, be of a serious character. The misapprehension people are so liable to fall into in connection with this purgatorial condition arises from a very common tendency to take too severe a view of our own shortcomings. People taught to consider themselves miserable sinners, merely because they are leading a commonplace physical life, are probably, in most cases, so entirely innocent in reality that when free of the body they will slip unconsciously through the purgatorial region and wake up happily on some level of the fourth subplane. Again, the study of the purgatorial region is so intricate that imagination is misled if we dwell upon it elaborately before realizing the still greater and altogether beautiful intricacies of the higher subplanes which, from the lower levels of the fourth right up to the highest, are hardly tinged with any emotion in the nature of suffering. The intricacy and complication of the vast fourth subplane will be readily comprehended, when we think of it as the natural future home of entities as varied as the population of the Earth, or, leaving out of account the humbler multitudes of uncivilized communities, the difference between individual egos within the limits of a civilized country like our own are so enormous and elaborate that natural law has, indeed, a delicate task in providing all with perfectly suitable environment in the restful period between two physical lives. Close observation, to begin with, divides the fourth subplane into another septary series, but 7 is left far in the rear as a number indicative of the need such life develops for variety. On quite the lower levels of the fourth we find life carried on with such close resemblance to the conditions of physical life on this globe, that when we hear of houses, theaters, and amusements there, landscapes and lakes, and actual furniture in the houses, some of us start up indignantly with the idea of associating such phenomena with a spiritual condition. The spiritual life and fleshly life are, however, closely intermingled, not merely in the living human body, but in the superphysical worlds, appropriate to human existence. There are people on the astral world free of all painful embarrassments, but who have not climbed beyond the conception of happiness associated with physical enjoyment. To find these still available to the astral life, their aspirations in that direction must, indeed, be a good deal refined, and we have always to remember that the affections which play so important a part in our life even here are still more supreme in their importance on all the happy levels of the astral world. Karma entangles incarnate life with all kinds of associations, and though it may permit us to enjoy some really congenial companionship, it often forces upon us a good deal of the other kind. In the astral life, even on the fourth level, not to speak for the moment of loftier conditions, people are never thrown into companionship which is otherwise than congenial. This is one of the foremost assurances we gather from people speaking to us from the next world. Sometimes they are still with friends they have known and cared for on the earth life, but in any case with people towards whom they feel entirely sympathetic. In attempting this sort of survey, the magnitude of the task is intimidating. We have accumulated such a vast body of detailed information concerning astral life, that, to use a favorite simile, one cannot see the forest for the trees, but keeping for the moment to generalities, let me attempt to indicate the leading characteristics of the vast fifth, sixth, and seventh subplanes of the astral world. These must not be thought as definitely one superior to the other. Through the various minor subdivisions of the vast fourth subplane, people do get actually promoted, as it were, from one to the other as their qualifications for enjoying the higher regions become developed, but once attaining the highest levels of the fourth, the other regions are reached, not so much by virtue of anything that can be thought of as promotion, but in accordance with what may much more accurately be described as individual taste. Roughly speaking, the fifth subplane is the region in which intellectual activity can most easily expand, the sixth is more devotional in its character, while the seventh is a region in which those egos that have played an important public part in the earth life find themselves in congenial companionship, and within reach of opportunities for developing their own qualifications as leaders of men in preparation for future incarnations along that line of activity. The idea just hinted at interprets the enormously significant fact that in various departments of human distinction great egos remain by preference on the higher levels of the astral world instead of passing on, as they conceivably might, to the still more elevated conditions of the Marsic plane. Let us consider, for example, the choice to be made by the great men of science as they pass on from physical life. Assume, first, that they have no bad karma to keep them for a while on number 3. They wake up on the highest levels of the fourth in company with congenial friends in their own line of development. They quickly learn that on the fifth, to which they can pass on at will, splendid opportunities for carrying on the scientific researches to which they may have been devoted lie within their reach. They see that to take a forward leap to the Marsic plane would break the continuity of their work, land them on levels of perception out of tune with the science they have been used to. It would carry them on to another line of development altogether. By keeping on the astral they acquire new knowledge in tune with that of their lives just spent. That will invest their egos with expanded capacity. In the next life on earth they will be able to carry on their work from the point at which they left it off last,